What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the review and discussion for UnOrdinary episode 333. So, as you all know, this episode was pretty cool. It was pretty good. It was pretty good, honestly. So, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. I am a little sick right now. Not too much, but this will probably be a little bit briefer than other ones. But episode starts off with Zeke arriving at the Bureau of Authority to report to Dimitri, the one who interviewed Arlo way back when, and most likely interviewed Zeke for his position as well. But Dimitri notices that Zeke is kind of beat up. He still has like a bruised up face and everything. And it's actually kind of interesting in this episode. He actually kind of reprimands Zeke for looking beat up, basically saying like, what are you doing? Like, are you trying to make it look like we're weak? Like, why are you walking around like that? So that was kind of funny. Anyway, Zeke lies, because we all know that's exactly what Zeke does, and tells Dimitri that John is an informant of Spectre, stating that John admitted to it. I should probably reword this. So, Zeke, getting out of order. Zeke tells Dimitri that the person who did this to him is John, a student at Wellston, who's out of control and kind of a problem and everything. He then says that John is an informant of Spectre, stating that John admitted to it. This is a little interesting, which we will get to in a bit. But Zeke, like I said, Zeke also mentions that John is the one who beat him up. Dimitri. And one thing that's also kind of funny about this is when Zeke tells him that John was the one who, like, John's out of control, he's, like, unruly, blah, blah, blah. Dimitri kind of doesn't care. It's funny because, like, it's funny because, like, Zeke thinks he's all that. He thinks he's tough shit because he has a job with the Bureau now. But even in the Bureau, when he tells his higher ups that he got beat up by a student, their response is, why do you look like that? Why have you not gotten yourself healed? Are you trying to make us look weak? And when he tells them he got beat up by someone stronger than him, they're just like, why did you mess with him? Like, I think it's so funny that Zeke has that Zeke has this high status, but even the people who gave him this status don't really care about him. Zeke of course tells him that no, John is an informant of Spectre, which he has an immediate response of like, okay, what's your basis for this? Like, how did you get across this evidence? And he tells him that John admitted to it. He overheard a conversation. That's the interesting part that I want to touch on real quick, because John didn't say that. Arlo did. Arlo is the one who warned John, if they find out that you could be an informant, they may come after you. So it is very interesting. I'm kind of curious to see how this unfolds for Zeke. Could it be good, or could it blow up in his face again like the rest of his lies and everything? It entirely depends on how John responds to everything. Like I mentioned in the initial reaction, depending on the questions John is asked and if he tells and how he responds. Because if John is asked if he was an informant and member of Spectre, that he wasn't. He met with them, but he was never officially recruited. Again, if he's asked, were you the one who distributed these flyers across the school? If he says yes, that's a lie. So, again, it depends. And also, it is interesting because Arlo kind of got notoriety and, like, promotions because he was basing things off of truths. His things were true and they led somewhere. Zeke is trying to up himself and get others in trouble based on lies. So I do definitely think that Zeke will play a role in the series going forward. Like I mentioned before, I definitely think it's possible that he gets into anti-corruption and becomes a part of Spectre. But actually, I don't think that's Arlo's department. But basically, he becomes a part of Valerie's department, becomes a member of Spectre, gets a hold of his own amplifiers, and kind of goes like on a power trip and shit. I think that's definitely possible with Zeke. But I am curious if Uru will kind of maintain the status of Zeke trying to cheat his way up, but he just ends up failing. Because let's be honest. Well, it's kind of hard to say actually, because I shouldn't say that, because the Bureau has recruits like Arthur who are hot-headed like Zeke and think they're tough shit because they're part of the Bureau. So yeah, I guess the Bureau actually wouldn't really care if Zeke is all high and mighty about the whole thing. Anyway, Dimitri then goes to report to Byron, who says that someone is already working on the Wellston, specifically the Headmaster Vaughn case, Cassandra. And while he's thinking things over, he says that there's other matters that need to be handled first. This is him thinking to himself. He doesn't tell this to Dimitri, possibly because Dimitri isn't informed of everything at the Bureau. So that is when we see him looking at Kuyo's file. And we see his ability and his level, Blade Master, 5.6. Now, this is where I called shenanigans, because someone as strong as Kuyo was absolutely toying with Liam. So that's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say for now. I did not believe in Kuyo's level for a second. That's all I'm saying. Is that I'm saying that I'm just saying because I'm just saying. Anyway, so we see that Byron has something in store and planned for Kuyo. We then cut to Wellston University, where Kuyo is seen talking to someone while heading back to his dorm, going over the photos and footage from their encounter with Brims and Fury. He's looking at his initial photos of all the Spectre agents. Brims, Fury, Vulcan, Lumens, Pyre. I think that's it. I think that's it. I could be missing someone. But he's looking over all the footage, and he's basically saying, like, the stuff I have isn't good enough. But this footage that we have, this could really damage them. Like, we could do something with this. Now, he also reflects on what Ray said before he died. Basically saying, like, when he told Kuyo, hey, take care of yourself. And he thinks to himself, this probably isn't what you meant by that. But you were vague, buddy. So, here we go. And then there's a knock at the door. And we see Arthur yet again, and some random lady. She's really not important, apparently. We'll get to that in a second. But they are at his door to arrest him for being a vigilante. And Byron is there with him. Kuyo does refer to him in the moment as Brims, which Arthur and the other lady don't really react to. But so they basically tell him, you are wanted for being a vigilante. If you want to, like, you know, kind of if you want to disagree with that, if you want to defend yourself, come with us. But Kuyo is obviously thinking, if I go with them, I'm going to die. There's no way I'm getting out of this alive. And so they immediately have the response of, like, ooh, you're getting a little nervous. Like, let's, like, oh, like, why are you're getting pretty nervous for someone who's so innocent. And this was the part of the episode where I actually got upset. I honestly got upset. And even now, I still don't like it. Because we see Byron Brims' actual ability. I assume actual because it matched his color, and I highly doubt that he stole that this ability was taken from someone else. The ability doesn't really match with based on the well, actually it doesn't matter because spoiler alert, we get his stat sheets. This is his confirmed level. But this is where I got upset, and this is a part of the episode that I really didn't like, because his ability is basically like summoning trees and like roots and everything and thorns, which he uses to capture and subdue Kuyo. The reason this upsets me, the reason why I said if you know you know in the reaction, is because it's basically my ability that I came up with for UnOrdinary that I've mentioned before. I don't know if I've talked about it a lot, honestly, if at all, in video, like on stream or anything. I'm pretty sure I have mentioned that would be my ability. But it's basically what I had in mind and have described nature manipulation, my ability, to be. And honestly, I'm not upset that the ability is in the series. I really like nature-based abilities. I really liked plant-based power sets and everything. The reason why why it honestly upset me is because it went to a character that we as the audience clearly don't like. It went to someone who I feel is undeserving of such a cool ability. That's honestly what it is at the end of the day. That's why I don't like the episode as much as others recently, and that's why I was personally upset. It's petty, I will admit. Did Uru know that was my ability? No, I don't think so. I highly doubt that she did, honestly. But that's why it upset me, is because to me it felt like Ember stole my ability now. My ability is now being used for evil, just like Jane and Ray. My ability is now being used for evil. So yeah, that's why it upset me. That's why I was upset during the initial reaction, is because my ability that I've told a lot of people about, it went to a character that I didn't like. A character that, like, obviously, like, you know, is probably going to die at some point. So yeah, that's basically it. Honestly, doesn't really matter all that much, because what happens next is when Kuyo gets caught, he summons his two standard katanas to try and cut himself out, but he is unable to do that. Now, I will admit, I'm not gonna lie. I'm an honest man. When I saw this, for a second, I did think I lost faith in our boy. Pause, double pause, triple pause, quadruple pause. Pause, double pause, triple pause. No. No. Pause. I said pause. Pause. Where is it? There we go. I lost faith in our boy. I lost faith in the boy. And honestly, in hindsight, I now that I look at this picture, I really should have seen this coming. The point is, I lost faith in our boy because I saw that he couldn't cut through the vines, and I was like, shoot, maybe Kuyo actually isn't built different. Maybe possibly that was his right level. I thought that for a split second because he was unable to do it. But then he looked back at his laptop with all the data he had on it, realizes that if he doesn't escape, he'll be dead and everyone's efforts will be for naught. And my man summoned the Buster Katana and slashes his way out of those vines. He says, "All right, motherfuckers." He tells them, "All right, motherfuckers, let's dance." He cuts out of the vines. He cuts off Arnold's arm, sends it flying. It goes clean off of his body. He cuts past a few more vines. He rushes to the woman agent. He rushes to the woman agent. He tells her, "Ma'am, don't worry. I am a practicer of gender equality in the workspace." And he murders her. Like, she is not alive. There is a gap in her body. Her body has been her arm and like a good chunk of her torso have been nearly severed from her body. She's dead. Uru, this woman is not alive. If you bring this woman back to life somehow, if she survives this, no, absolutely not. Absolute shenanigans. She's dead. She needs to be dead. She's not coming back to life. That woman, Arnold could possibly come back to life. I wouldn't doubt that. Is he still going to have both arms? Maybe. But the woman is dead. Anyway, he manages to keep cut to Byron's tree, through Byron's tree again. He makes his way to his laptop, jumps out of the window as Byron goes to try and catch him again. Students see him trying to escape and running away as he cuts through the trees and everything. And Byron even says he should have been easy to catch with the three of us. His records aren't accurate. And I love that detail. I love that detail because that also tells me one more thing. That's where the episode ends off, by the way. We see Kuyo run off and Byron's just like, his records aren't accurate. Like, what's going on? And honestly, this is something we should have seen coming from a long time ago. Records not being accurate and you keeping things secret from the Bureau. I think it's kind of interesting that something that John did at the beginning of the series is kind of becoming a standard practice, and it honestly makes sense. It makes strategic sense to be able to do this. John's records, as far as we know, John's records are still accurate. They're still up to date. The last time John went to an ability gauger is the last time he had a level up. He probably has some form of one now, but John's records of 7.5 is what his level is. We know about that Blyke is a high tier now, but does the school? Does everyone else? Who knows? But the idea that Kuyo was able to get an advantage because his records are out of date was really cool. And honestly, I'm thinking about this right now. I just thought of this. Byron works closely with Valerie. The fact that Byron now knows Kuyo's records aren't up to date, he's stronger than we anticipated, that could come back to bite him. The next time Valerie encounters Kuyo, they could potentially have, they could potentially, that could come back to bite them. Because I highly doubt that Kuyo's going to jump to a 7.5 next time he faces Valerie. Or maybe Byron will take an amplifier. Because let's be real. Let's be real. The authorities are testing these out so that they have a good formula for themselves. Let's be 100% honest there. But, who knows? Anyway, keeping your level secret from the Bureau, from the authorities. Good strategic play. Honestly, like it a lot. And I think we will see more of that from everyone else in the story as well soon. But yeah. So, then we get levels for both Byron and for Kuyo. Byron is Botanist, level 6.0. He is, just like with Ember and the rest of the cool kids in this series, he is the weakest god tier that we know of to date. Quite possibly the weakest Ember agent. He's gotten his shit kicked to him like 3 times with this. Oh my god. He may have a lower L rate, if not equal to Arlo's. Because I think all 3 of his fights have been L's. He got his shit kicked. When it was just him by himself, he got rocked by Ray and Kuyo. Got his shit rocked by Kuyo and Remy. And Kuyo managed to escape. That's an L. But anyway. And then, of course, we have Kuyo, the Blade Master. 6.3. 0.1 level stronger than Liam. And I fucking called it. I told you guys he was playing with Liam. And honestly, I do think it's really cool and really funny. Just kind of like another example of like Uru kind of showing how big the gap is the further you go up. How much bigger the gap gets in ability levels. But yeah. So, yeah, where I think we could go from here. So 2 things can happen. One, either way, I do think this is going to lead to Kuyo having to accept that he has to meet up with Grayson and kind of follow through with Remy and the others with their plan to kind of like form their own kind of Justice League. I do also think possibly because Caden's already a wanted man, he possibly goes to them and to Caden and tells him like, hey, I need you to teleport me somewhere. Who knows? Honestly, I think Kuyo definitely has 2 people he can absolutely trust right now. And that's Caden and that's Remy. So, with all that being said, what do I give episode 333? Honestly, I would give it a level 8 episode. It was a really good episode. All things considered, I would give it a 7.5 or 7.4. This episode is 7.4. All things considered. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I do think episode 334 will lead off with Kuyo, with Kuyo, trying to see where he's headed to next. So, let's wait and see what happens next. And guys, as always, let me know what you thought down below in the comments. Yeah, as always, everyone, see you, Space Cowboy.